It's probably going to get dark really fast here, but we're going to do this regardless. It is absolutely fantastic. I think this movie rules. I had a lot of fun with it. From basically jump, I was just in. I'm in. It's over for these hoes. I'm in. And I thought from start to finish, this movie was perfect, nearly perfect. I had a blast with it. Everything from the pacing to the editing to the filmmaking, the cinematography, all of that stuff is basically flawless. I really don't have an... There's like a cat or something. The music, I think, is a little overplayed. There's this like twangy sad guitar that plays 15,000 times, and that gets repetitive, but the music, the actual soundtrack is pretty good other than that, and the editing is super sharp. There's the perfect usage of wides. There's this perfect usage of hyper extreme close-ups. There's just great editing all around. The cinematography is incredible. The camera movements, the film look, but basically the story of this is pretty simple. It's about Taylor Russell and her journey, her road trip through the scummy underbelly of the Midwest, more or less. It's like a road trip movie, for better or worse. She's just driving around, meeting people, hanging out with people that are similar to her, and moving on to the next place once that dries up. She meets guys like Mark Rylance, who's creepy and awesome in this and hilarious. She meets Timothée Chalamet, who she falls in love with. She meets Michael Stahlberg, a serious man who is creepy and weird. Everyone she meets is creepy to some extent, because this is just a weird part of the United States that doesn't get explored all that much, and I think that intrinsically is kind of creepy to audiences, at least it was for me, because this is a weird, grungy side of the United States that isn't in many movies. The only other director I can think of that's doing stuff similar to this is... what's his name from the Florida Project? God damn it, how did I forget his name? So you get a lot of these locations and these houses that look, we'll say, lived in. Very lived in and not kept up very well. It's kind of grungy and gross looking. And I think, at least for this one, it does a great job of using that to tell its story and have its message. And its message, more or less, is love. But they're like these vampire people who just wander around, and they kind of are outcasts, and the entire movie reflects that feeling of being an outcast through the locations, through these houses, these trailers, these gross areas, or these underappreciated, undermanaged areas that aren't funded very well. And that's all about this trauma idea and this theme of love, the love conquering through this grunginess, through this seediness.
You look like the kind that's convinced himself he's got this under his thumb. But you pull on one little thread and...
I'm ready. My lord.
There are so many characters in this movie that you could probably make a case are unlovable. Just not good people that are horrible. I mean, Timothée Chalamet, the first thing you see of him is him heckling this guy who's heckling someone else and then eating him alive. And you go... not redeemable, though, you know? You don't eat people like that. And then as the movie goes on, it slowly makes it clear who he is, what he is, and why he's the way he is because of his generational trauma. Taylor Russell, almost the first thing you see is her wanting to be friends with people. And then some people go out on a limb and say, okay, you can come over to my house and we'll be friends. And then she bites their finger off. Oh, so it's all about these weird outcast people in these weird outcast locations just trying to make it in life. They're just trying to make their life better. So it's kind of a coming-of-age story in that sense as well. There's a lot going on in this in terms of its story, while also it doesn't have a ton to say with its story. The story is really just a road trip movie with vampires. It's a road trip movie with a twist. And I love that because of how simple it is and how much it focuses on our main characters. We have Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell for 95% of this movie, and they kind of just meet people and move around and try and figure out life. They're at a transitional point in their life, 18, 19, 20 area, where you're fresh out of high school and your life is basically gone, or what you knew of your life is gone, and you have to figure out who you are and what you are. And while most times these coming-of-age stories just simply don't work for me because they're trite and boring and they don't do anything interesting, this one takes that interesting concept of these people being cannibals, humanizes it, and then makes them young so that they can come of age in that space. And that makes it just that much more interesting, to me at least. Watching people come of age that are trying to eat people is way more interesting than people trying to come of age just in high school. I don't care.
Look, I don't want to take up a ton of your time, but I'm gonna kill myself.
It teases you with this nice ending where Taylor Russell and Timothée Chalamet more or less ride off into the sunset. And then you get an epilogue, and it ruins it. It's all for the point of the movie, the themes, which is generational trauma and what that does to people, and love and what that does to people, and for better or worse. It isn't a Hallmark movie where it's just sappy romance for the sake of sappy romance, and it isn't like a crushing I saw the devil type of movie where it's you want to kill yourself afterwards. It finds this nice sweet spot where it's like you experience this euphoric high with these characters where they finally get together and they finally are like making something of themselves, and you really want to see them do well because they have this genuine love you really like, and then it's ripped away from you because of someone else that is traumatized, that has a different idea of love. And it's a really interesting concept. I mean, most of this film is every single character has some kind of generational trauma because of what they're dealing with as vampire cannibal people. I mean, obviously, but it perfectly uses that as a metaphor for generational trauma, because the main two characters, especially Taylor Russell and Timothée Chalamet, both have parents who did horrible things to them. Taylor Russell, her dad abandoned her because she bit off someone's finger and he just couldn't take it anymore. And while that's understandable, he abandoned his child. I abandoned my child!
Say it louder. I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my child!
And then her mom left her as well to protect her out of love, to protect her because she was also a vampire cannibal. And in this world, apparently, when you're a vampire cannibal, it passes down from your parents to some degree. At least that's the idea I got from this. And she goes to see her mom, and her mom has like chewed off her own hands, and she has a letter for her daughter. She didn't want her to be there. She made her husband promise not to tell her daughter about her because she didn't want to put her daughter in danger out of love. And then she showed up and had to be sedated because she tried to attack her. But that's another topic. And then there's Timothée Chalamet, whose backstory is wrapped in secrecy throughout most of this movie. Something happened with his dad, and we don't learn about it until the bitter end. You get a good sense of what it is, though, pretty early on, and it's depressing. It's really sad, and you can really relate to him because of what he went through, and you understand why he's kind of this asshole guy who's just like swinging his balls around at everybody. He doesn't seem to care about anything. He doesn't seem to care about anyone. He's just like, yeah, people got rules, I don't. And you understand why that is because of his trauma he endured as a child protecting the people he loved. And then at the end, he does the exact same thing. He protects the people he loves because of love.
Bones and All is a love story. It's about two people that are not only safe with each other, but really in love, comforted by one another. I was moved by Lee and Marin's story, carrying something that you carry shame with or can't quite make sense of. I was attracted to this character of Lee because I felt he had figured out how to game the system to survive with this condition.
So this idea of generational trauma and love are kind of intertwined throughout this movie, and one really can't work without the other, because it's difficult to overcome trauma without love. Simple as that. And so the movie brilliantly weaves these two together in a way that I found immensely satisfying, especially near the end when it hits you with that dark-ass ending. But there's something kind of bittersweet about it as well, because Timothée Chalamet, big spoilers here, gets stabbed in his lung by Mark Rylance, who, out of some distorted view of love, came searching for Taylor Russell, because he and her had one good experience together where they ate some old lady, and he said that he ate in front of her and he's never done that before, or he cleaned himself in front of her and he's never done that before. And that seems to be kind of like a metaphorical one-night stand and the guy gets feelings type of thing. And he comes back for her and he wants something from her, and then they fight and he gets killed, and so does Timothée Chalamet. But at the last minute he says, I want you to eat me, because that's like a pure form of love between the two of them. Is one, they realize that he's going to die, and that they both have this thing where they have to eat somebody to feel full for a certain amount of time. And so it's this pure form of love where he wants her to eat him. I can't believe I'm saying these things out loud. But that's more or less this movie, Bones and All. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to unpack. It has so much to say without really pushing it on you at all. I mean, if you just watch this movie for Timothée Chalamet, as I'm sure a lot of women in my theater were there specifically for, I don't think you'll get what you want out of this. I don't think you will, because he's just kind of a dude. There's not a ton of romance in this, even though it is a romantic movie. It's definitely more of a thriller, I would say. It's definitely more of a drama than a romance, and a thriller than a romance. There's a lot of body horror in this as well. There's some pretty graphic sequences of nasty gore that I personally had a blast with. I thought it was great and super well executed. It's not over the top, which I appreciated. It just has 3 or 4 sequences of some really nasty stuff, and you get the point of what these people are from that, and it moves on from it pretty quickly, other than that ending, which is just completely graphic and over the top for a clear reason. There's just a lot here, and it is one that is very enjoyable just to watch. I think if you just watch this as a body horror movie, you'll get a lot out of it. If you just watch it as a drama, I think you'll get a lot out of it. And if you watch it as a thriller, I think you'll get a lot out of it. It's an entertaining, well-paced, incredibly well-made movie with strong performances from Taylor Russell and Timothée Chalamet and Mark Rylance. They're absolutely stunning in this. Wow, I almost fell over. They're excellent. They're so good in it. And it has a lot that is going on under the covers, if you will. It's one thing after another. There's a lot that it's saying. There's a lot that it's doing. It's just great. I would give it an 8 or a 9. I think it's fantastic. I can't wait to see it again. So if you want to see a weird-ass body horror movie about vampire cannibal people that eat people, bones and all, as they say, Bones and All is for you.